Hello everybody, welcome to episode 18 of Making the Online Pokemon Game. Last time I said we were finished with transitions, but I actually forgot completely that currently transitions don't work with multiple players. So I'll have to fix that this episode. So just as a little demonstration, if I move a player to the left here into a new room, you can see this player still sees all the players from the previous room because they haven't really been updated, so it's still rendering everybody as normal, but that's not what it should be happening. And likewise, if this character moves to the left into the new room, now they can't see anybody, so they can't even see each other in this room. So those issues should be pretty easy to fix actually. So if we come into our on data client here, open this up and scroll down to where we actually move to a new room. The reason this is all happening is really because of this line right here where we are removing the player altogether. We can actually not do that. And instead of moving the player, we're going to set the player to a new position, or set the player's room in the client. So this is happening on the client side. So first we need to get the player. So we'll say P equals player controller dot, and we just have to say players brace, and we just need to get the ID. So we get this player, and then we're going to say p dot current room equals room. I don't know why I made this snake case instead of camel case, but we'll just leave it for now, I guess. We can actually remove this line where we remove players because we don't want to remove it anymore. And we actually want to set this for everyone, so we'll move that out of the if block. And likewise, we actually want to take all of this code where we're moving the player, like actually setting the player's X and Y position, and take that out and put that outside of the if block as well, because we want this to happen no matter what. And we can remove this line where we're saying P equals client ID, because we're already grabbing the player right here. And then we can turn this into, instead of an if else statement, we'll just take out the else statement and say if ID is the client and the room exists, then we're going to go to the room, force our position, and set the transition. Alright, that should be fine there. So now we're setting a variable called current room in the client side. So now the client knows which room every player is in. But that's not 100% helpful, because just because they know where they are, it's still rendering everybody. So we need to go into the player data, and actually the player controller would be a better place, because here we have this function called render all players, and this is just rendering every single player. If they exist, just render them. But we want to exclude any player that isn't in the room with us. So what we can actually do is we'll create a function for this. We'll just say we'll call it get current player as a function. We'll do two functions here. We'll say get current player and is player in room, and we'll just say is a function with a player. First we'll just return get current player dot current ID, or current room equals player dot current room. So this is checking if the current player, which is the client player, is equal to the current room. And in current player, we can say if is, or if not network dot is client, I can return no one, and otherwise I can return players client dot ID. The reason for this is because if it's the server running this code, there is no current player because the server isn't a player. So we just return no one there. And then this is player in room, just checks if any given player is in the same room as us. So here I can just say if is, what do we call it, in is player in room, and the player is going to be player's I. And we'll continue, and actually this should be if not is player in room. So if the player is not in the same room as us, we just will continue on, don't render this player. And that should be pretty much everything, I believe. If I run the server and I run a client and I run another client, and we'll just run a third one just because hopefully this all works. So I want to move one player off to the left here, and they don't see any of the players anymore. And if I move another player off the screen, I'm just going to move this one to the left as well, and we'll move this player off to the screen. They are now both appearing on the same room, but this person cannot see anybody until they move into the room with them. So now everything should be updating properly. If I move someone to the right, it looks like so far everything is working. They are only updating for players in the same room as them. Alright, so that was very easy. Again, no bugs, luckily. That being said, this is a video that's only 6.5 minutes in, so what I'm going to be doing now is we're going to do a little bit of an extra thing. We're going to get ping to work. I was playing other multiplayer games earlier, and I realized that ping can be useful because I had no internet earlier, and it was lagging, and I saw the ping, and I was like, this would be a nice thing to add. Just display our ping. I'm sure some of you want to learn how that works. So first, let's find a good place to do this. I'm going to say the debug would be a good place to store ping. We can store this as a variable, ping equals 0, and this will be in milliseconds probably. I think that'll be fine. So we'll need to add in some variables here, or some functions I should say, for ping. If we scroll to the very bottom, we'll just add them in down here. I don't know what to name these. Perhaps get ping or update ping equals a function. And we'll need some more variables in here probably. So what are we going to do? This is going to work on the client side, obviously. So what's going to happen is this is going to send a note, a message to the server, and then the server will send that message directly back to the client, and we're going to measure the time between when we send it and when we receive it. So let's take this ping variable and move it all the way down to the bottom just so we can have it in our screen visible. So we'll have ping and pre-ping equals 0. So how do we measure time? We can go pre-ping equals, and we have to get the current time. So will this work? Let's see. Current time, this read-only variable will return the number of milliseconds that have passed since the game was started. That actually should work just fine. So what I can then say is ping equals, and what would the math be on this? This would be pre-ping, or actually current time minus pre-ping. I believe this will work. So current time is a bigger value, and then this will be the lesser value. So this should get the difference in time, which does also mean that ping will start off as a very high number. What I could do is I could set this equal to like -1, and then say if pre-ping equals -1, then ping equals 0. That way the very first frame that we try to do this isn't some ridiculously like low negative number, or I guess it would be a really high number. So it'll just start off at 0. And then before we do anything else, what we're going to do is we are going to count, or we're going to send a message to the server. So that should be pretty easy. We can just say network.start, and the message name we need to actually set up. So we'll come into our, our network types. And we're going to create a new network type here. We'll just call it ping, so macro and ping going to be 8. And then here we can just do start with nping network.send server. And that's all we need. We don't need to send any data with it. We're just sending just this one value. And then if we come into the on data server, we need to handle this. So all this is going to do is say case and ping break. And what we're going to do is all this has to do is send it directly back to the player. So I can say, all I need to do is network.start, trying to think, and ping, because I don't need to read any values out of this because they've already been read. And I mean, we will need the ID like we do here, so I guess we can do that. ID is the header of the socket ID. So it's not really reading it, it's just getting it out of the header. Network.send, and this one just sends to one single client, I believe. Let's actually look at this. I just want to make sure that when we look at send, it's sending to a socket, not the ID of the socket. So we'll have to say send to network.sockets ID. And it is plural, right? It's not socket singular, if I'm not mistaken. There's no example there. I just want to make sure. Nope, it's just checking quick. I was wrong. It's server. That's why. Okay. Server sockets ID. Let me make sure this is correct. Server sockets, it's an array. But for some reason it is wrong because it thinks that it is no one, which is an object. That's why it's showing up as an error, but that should be fine. I should have set these to undefined. That would have been smarter. I want to do that now, but I feel like that's going to break a lot of things, isn't it? I wonder if that would still be fine. I could probably fix all the errors. I'm trying to find where I check this. Like anywhere that I might be using no one for it. So like here, no, even there that's fine. I think maybe it's fine. Maybe I can just set it to undefined. Maybe that'll work. Except for under network send all. When we send all here, we are checking if socket ID is no one. We should be checking if that equals no one or sockets I equals undefined. And that's under network send all because we want to make sure that that's not undefined now. It might still come up with errors. We'll find out. If so, we'll just locate them and fix them. Well, there we go. No sockets available, or no available sockets. Okay, you know what? We'll just leave it. We'll get rid of this. I could go track it down, but I'm going to set this back equal to no one. Just because we can. It's not that big of a deal. Only problem is it really bothers me seeing these feather messages that show as an error when they're not an error, but that's okay. Anyway, so this sends a ping back to the client, and now the client needs to receive it. So we can go to on data client here, and we'll on the bottom say case and ping break, and all you have to do here is say debug dot update ping. And that should be everything working. The only issue now is under the debug, we need to call update ping at least once at the very start. So at the very top, maybe. No, there's not really a place to do this, I don't think. So we'll do it under the network controller. So in the network controller, after we initialize the network, I will just say debug dot ping or update ping. But we should only do this if network.is client. We don't want the server to try to ping itself. That might be a little strange. Okay, we can run this, execute it, and it breaks. Okay. So out of range sockets, socket ID. Let's figure out why that would be happening. That's under the OnData server, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe this error is wrong, but I wouldn't expect it to be. What values are we getting from this? We're getting -4. So server sockets ID is -4, which would make sense why it would be undefined. So ID is no one. My best guess for this would be at this point, show debug message, client.id. Yeah, okay. So we don't want to do this here in the update ping actually, or in the create event for the client. We want to do it when the client actually gets initialized. And so that's on data client. If we scroll up and we say under very top where we say NID, this is where we're initializing the client because it now knows, hey, this is who I am, but we don't want to do it anytime before this. So under the very top, under NID on the on data client, we can say debug dot update ping. And we don't need to check if it's the client or not because this only happens in the client anyway. So now hopefully that should work. If I run this, I mean, to be fair, it could be working, but there's not really a way to tell that it's working. So I could try going under debug and under the very end, I guess, after draw log, I can create a new function called draw UI equals a function. And we'll just draw this out all the time. So draw set color, C white, draw set H line, FA left or right. We'll put this in the top right corner. Draw set V line, FA left, sorry, top. So this will be in the top right corner, draw. And we have a function that could work pretty well for this. I think under the utility, we have this render text function. Render text. The X and Y position will be var XX. Display get GUI width, I believe. GUI width and height. GUI width, and YY is just 0, so we'll say XXYY. The text will be string ping, and the height we'll set it equal to display get GUI height, and we'll multiply it by 1/10. So a very small height, but that should be fine. Well, actually, that should be fine, I think. And here I will say ping plus that, so it just got a nice little text. We can do a colon there. And one thing I should update is on the end where we say update ping and we're saying pre-ping equal to, or we're saying ping equal to this. I should surround this in brackets and divide it by 2. Because ping isn't the time from the client to the server, it's the it is the time from the client to the server, or vice versa. But right now this value here would be the total time from the client to the server and then from the server back to the client. And I believe ping should just be half of this value, so we'll divide it by 2. And now we need to actually call draw UI. We can do that in the network controller under draw GUI at the very top. Well, actually, yeah, we'll do it at the very bottom actually, and we'll say if network.isClient, I will say debug.draw UI, and we can run this, run a client, and ping is okay. We could definitely fix this a little bit. Yeah, that looks really bad. So there's ways to fix this that is a little better, but for now, I believe there's a string. Ooh, my internet's down. Funny enough. I believe there's a string ext, which allows me to format it in a special way, but I'm not totally sure. For now, I guess this is just fine, to be honest. We can update this a little later, another time, but I'm gonna remove that string text because that was a little jumpy. We could do this ourselves, actually. Var t equals string ping, and we'll say while equals while string length t doesn't equal 2, or actually while it's less than 2, t equals 0 plus t. This will just pad it with extra zeros at the start. And we should also say floor ping, just so that it doesn't have decimals. And if I run this, didn't really work. It's still showing decimals. Oh, that's because we're drawing ping. We should be drawing t now. All right, run this one more time. And there we go. It's hovering around 10 and lower. It might be better to take an average value. So like instead of just getting it every single frame, we should get it over like course of several frames. But this is fine. It's a low number right now. Normally it should be like a little higher, probably like 20s, 25 to 50. But because the server is on the same computer as the client, it is actually going by really fast. I don't think it'll change too much if we have multiple clients. Like, I think it would still run at the same pace. Even if I just open up a whole bunch, it might start breaking. In fact, I think something just froze because it's not opening up anymore. Client refused. Oh, actually, no. What happened was the server can only accept right now 10 clients at a time, so we just reached that limit. Stop moving. But everything's working. My computer sounds like it is struggling a little bit, which is kind of funny. I don't have the strongest computer in the world, so that makes sense. Hopefully it works better for you guys. But yeah, I just wanted to get a ping drawn so that we have that. I could have made it so that it only shows up when we have the UI drawn. I don't know what this 6 is. Oh, that's what ID we are, maybe? Yeah, okay. But yeah, that is going to do it for this episode. We now have transitions fully done, and now we can move on to something new next time. We'll try to decide what that'll be. It'll be a little surprise. Where is this player? But yeah, hopefully it'll be fun and interesting for you guys. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.